Let's begin with the next set of questions. Now the first question here was, which of the following is not correct about Venn diagram? So Venn diagram represents propositions and classes, that's correct. It provides a clear method of notation because you are drawing it and explaining it, so it's a clear method of notation. It provides a method to test the validity, whether what you are doing is correct or not, but it can either be valid or invalid is incorrect, because Venn diagrams have to be valid because you are able to test the validity, and therefore it cannot be invalid. So third becomes a incorrect option for this question. The next question is, select the code which is not correct with a deductive argument. So for deductive argument, what is very important, for a deductive argument you have to have both the premises true in order for the conclusion to be true. So premise 1 true, premise 2 true, and then I can say conclusion would be true. If one of the premise is false, then conclusion would be false, or the conclusion will not be valid. So argument with one true premises, one false premises would have a false conclusion, may be valid, that is incorrect, okay, that's not correct. So valid argument can be possibly having all two premises and a false conclusion, that's true, but you have to understand that how this runs. So if a valid argument has a false conclusion, then at least one of the premises must be false, okay. So that's very important to understand, that even if you are having one premise which is false, the conclusion would turn out to be false. The next question talks about correlation coefficient best explaining creativity and intelligence. So studies have shown, now this is not a kind of question that could be directly answered, this is a research problem that has been given. So studies have shown that through the problems on intelligence and creativity, we have tried to find out there is a very high correlation between intelligence and creativity. Now when we say very high correlation, a high positive correlation, it has to range, the correlation has to range from -1 to +1. -1 is strongly negative, +1 is strongly positive. 0 means no correlation. So strongly positive or towards positive, that is tending towards 1. So from these choices, only 1 is one of the best options that I could mark out. The next question is, which of the following graphs does not represent a regular periodic behavior? Now look on to the first choice, it represents a regular periodic. So it's moving into the same format again and again and again and again. Similarly, the second one is also moving in the same fashion again. The fourth one is also moving in the same fashion again, but this one, I don't know what would be the next pattern. It could be a straight line, it could go up, it could go down. I don't know anything, and therefore this is not a regular periodic function that is being explained. The next question, this question is again on the error. So there is 1% error in the length and 1% in the breadth of a rectangle. What is the percentage error in the area of the rectangle? So let's say in the first case it's L and B. So the length of the rectangle is L into B. In the second case, the length is let's say this was 100 and 100. So 100L plus 100L multiplied by 100B. Here it becomes 101L and 101B. So when I multiply this would become 10201. And what would happen is, basically it is 2% more. So when you have a change in length which is 1% more, the percentage change in the area would be 2% more in the case of square or a rectangle if that remains same. Okay. So that's one of the important things that have been asked in this question. The next question is, a cluster of proposition with a structure that exhibits some inference is known as, this is known as an argument. So when I say inference, it's a process where I cluster the propositions together. But when I say I am clustering the proposition with a structure which is exhibiting some inference, this is an argument. So a difference between inference and argument, I repeat again, when I say when I cluster the propositions together, just this is what is inference. But when I cluster the propositions and I try to exhibit some inference from it, this is what is an argument. So argument would be the correct answer for this question. The next is, inductive reasoning is based on the presumption that there is uniformity in the nature. So that's something that's very, very important to understand. This explains that the events that have occurred in the past have a possibility to occur in the future. So based on the past, I can say there is uniformity in the nature. And again, I explain, we talked about inductive reasoning as ISG, moving from specific to general. So that's one of the presumptions that we take into consideration under inductive reasoning. The second is there has to be uniformity in nature. Usha and Monica, two of you had put up this question. So just make sure, Hume was the first person who talked about uniformity of the nature, and he explained that the things that have happened in past have a high possibility to occur in the future as well, and therefore we say there is uniformity of nature that occurs in inductive reasoning, and this is based on the law of physics that we try to observe on the day-to-day basis. The next question is reasoning where we start with a particular statement and conclude to a universal statement is called. Again, I answered this second back. So ISG, we start from a particular moving on to a general conclusion or a universal conclusion, and that is what is inductive reasoning. So as simple as that, this is to explain the inductive reasoning. The next question is, to be critical, thinking must be. When we are saying I have to be critical, we have to be highly analytical and motivated. So to be analytical and motivated is something very important. Now some of you were confused that this is critical, and you were confused with creative. So we are not talking about creative thinking, we are talking about critical thinking. So critical thinking comes only and only with analysis. So once you are analytical, you are motivated, you can critically think about the concepts, and therefore analytical would be the best option here. The next is, which of the following is a good method for teaching? Now we say seminar and a project is one of the very good methods of teaching, because teacher discusses the topic under seminar, and under project you are given some kind of activity that has to be done. So it's both a kind of discussion and an activity involvement from the other side that has to be considered, and therefore you have seminar and project as the correct option. The next question says, most often a teacher-student communication must be utilitarian. A spurious relation is not there. It's not always a kind of critical relation, but yes, it is a kind of utilitarian relationship where whatever is being exchanged, the knowledge is being exchanged, is properly utilized. So that's how we explain it. The next question was on data interpretation. Here you had the values of TVs and LCDs that are given. The first question says, in which year the total production of electronic item was maximum. So you have to just add these values for each year. So for, let's say, 2006, I add 6,000 and 7,000, I have 13,000. Next I have 18,400, I have 22,000, 21,000, and last is 20,000. So of that, 22,000 is the highest, and that 22,000 is for 2008. So I say maximum production for 2008 would be there for the electronics item. The next question says, what is the difference between the average of production of TVs and LCDs from 2006 to 8, and I have to find difference between the averages. So let's find out the average for 2006. It's 6,000 and 7,000, so the average is 6,500. For 2008, the average is 13,000 and 9,000, so the average is 11,000. Now I have to find out the difference of the averages. So the difference of the averages would be these two values, that would be 4,500. So my correct answer here would be 4,500. I understand that the choices that were given for this question were incorrect, and therefore you were confused. So that's the correct way of solving this question. The next question says, there are 10 true-false questions in an examination. In how many ways that can be answered? So one question can be true, the other can be false. Okay, and that's how we can solve the question. So for every question I have true and false, and it could be true, false, false, true, any kind of combinations could be there. So 2 raised to power 10 possible combinations could be there, and when I solve it 2 raised to power 10, 2 raised to power 5 is 32, 32 multiplied by 32, I have 1024 as the correct answer. So 1024 ways of solving this problem are there. So that was again a very direct question from the section on probability that was asked. Let us know if you had further